Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall is the most demanded fight in the UFC right now. It seems like every press conference we have, Dana's getting asked about this fight because we just want to know when it's happening or if it's happening. He seems so confident. Listen, kid, I'll tell you what I've been saying since the start of this whole shindig. The fight's gonna happen. Like, is it? Because we haven't heard anything about it. Aspinall now seems confident it's gonna happen. Jones, I don't even know what Jones is saying. I don't even want to talk about Jones, man. But Dana just refuses to promote this fight, specifically refuses to promote Aspinall because he's scared that his LeBron James of the sport in Jon Jones is going to get beaten, and he doesn't want as many people to see that or something. I have no reason why he doesn't promote this fight, because if Aspinall beats Jones, you've then got, like, you build so much on his name. Why don't you want to promote that? Like, Jon Jones, he does nothing for you. Why are you so obsessed with promoting Jon Jones? I don't understand it. Just delusion from the UFC, I think. Jon Jones said he wants 6 months for a training camp because he's pathetic. Yeah, so it's likely going to be in November at Madison Square Garden, same as last year for Jones's retirement. Should be International Fight Week, but probably going to be November. Then this video, I'm going to be putting together a card to go beneath Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall's fight in UFC 322, it should be. Going to be a little bit of guesstimation, if you will, with this video, because we're looking quite a while in advance. We're having to put together fights based on who's winning fights that we've got happening in like the next couple months. But I think I've got a pretty reasonable good card that can kind of work whoever wins for the most part. So let's just dive straight into it. Kicking off the main card, a legend fight, a retirement fight for both guys, 2 top 20 guys of all time in the bantamweight division, Jose Aldo versus Henry Cejudo. Why has this fight not been made? Instead we get Aldo versus Ayman Zahabi. Yeah, everyone's excited to see that. Can we get Aldo versus Cejudo? It's such an obvious fight. How do you not make this? How have you not already gone, oh, that makes a lot of sense? Cejudo said his next fight's going to be his retirement fight. Aldo, after Zahabi, reasonably is going to have like 1 or 2 more. So I think you just put these guys against each other and make it a retirement fight for both and see which one of these legends comes out on top. The best takedown defense in UFC history and a great striker in Jose Aldo versus a generational wrestler, Olympic gold medalist in Henry Cejudo. What? That is an incredible matchup. Like, stylistically, let's see if Cejudo's wrestling is enough to overcome Aldo's takedown defense, because if he gets him to the ground, it's probably over for Aldo. But can he get him to the ground? Because if he can't, Aldo is going to utterly light him up. And I think Aldo, actually, against Mario Batista, he looked very good, and Martinez, he looked very good, whereas Cejudo against Song Yadong, didn't look great. He did look far more washed than Aldo did. I'd have Aldo to win this, to be honest, but we'll see who comes up out on top. Is an incredibly interesting matchup because stylistically it's going to go one way or it's going to go the other, and we're just going to find out who's better between these 2 top 20 guys all time. This is the kind of fight, and I was speaking about it in my last video, this fight specifically as well, but a lot of others, we're just missing out on fights we have to see. Makhachev versus Topuria, perhaps by the time I put this video out that'll have been announced, because it's looking like that's the fight they're making at the moment with the rumblings. This is the kind of fight that you just don't want to miss out on, and if you don't do it next, you're going to miss out on it. And who are you doing Cejudo against instead? Were you going to do him against like Rob Font or something? Like, that's the type of matchup they'll give him. Or they'll give him like Martinez. Or they'll go, oh, what, Ayman Zahabi, you beat Jose Aldo? Yeah, have Henry Cejudo. What are we doing, man? Just make Aldo Cejudo. It's such an obvious fight. And I swear to God, I ranted about it so much in the International Fight Week card builder. I just don't get why this wasn't the fight they made instead of Aldo versus Zahabi. And it really doesn't matter if Zahabi beats Aldo, or like it really doesn't matter what happens. This is just a fight you can make because it's that kind of 2 old legends, unks of the sport, like, and you can just put it together anytime because they're both probably not going to win again. Like, they're definitely not going to win against any of the top guys, so you just whack them against each other. It doesn't matter where they're ranked, really. You just, you know, make the fight because it's really obvious. I just don't see why this isn't something that's being talked about more, because it's such a, like, to me this is just such a clear cut, this is the fight you make. But I don't know what the UFC's thinking most of the time. This whole card is like probably stuff the UFC would be too thick to make. But let's move on to the next matchup. Aldo versus Cejudo. that's the fight to make. Now our next fight is going to be in the lightweight division, and it's going to be one that was actually previously booked. Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. When we were building up to 313 before it got cancelled, this was so hype. Like, this was an awesome matchup, and I know we got a pretty good fight in Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. It couldn't hold up to what we probably would have got with Gaethje versus Hooker. This is the type of fight that we should be getting like a BMF title for, because it'll be an absolute war. You know, Dan Hooker's going to be going to hospital afterwards. Gaethje's going to be having his head all lopsided, cracked with scars and it, covered in each other's blood and stuff. It'd just be an absolute war. It's going to be a fight of the year contender if this gets made. And it was already booked, and you're probably thinking, oh well, Justin Gaethje's just beat Fiziev and Hooker pulled out, so Hooker don't really deserve that fight. If you've watched my last video, you should. It's a good video. I booked Justin Gaethje against Arman Tsarukyan as the co-main for Islam Ilya on International Fight Week. I think Arman would win that fight, get whoever wins between Ilya and Islam. So if Gaethje were to win that fight, yeah, you give him a title shot, but I think he loses that, and I think coming off a loss there, you can do Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje, and I think that's a fight that makes sense, and it's just such a fan-friendly fight. And then you give the winner a #1 contender. We've got Gaethje as the protagonist here. Like, we need a Gaethje win, man. Like, the Fiziev win was good, but like, we all knew he was winning that, so it's we need a solid Gaethje win. Obviously, he'll be a massive favourite against Dan Hooker, you should think, but yeah, I want to see Gaethje win. So I've got him as the protagonist here, but Dan Hooker's not a villain, really. We do, like, I wouldn't mind seeing Dan Hooker win, and that makes a title picture a bit more exciting, actually. It's a fresh name in there. This is such a great fight. You can put it on any pay-per-view, and it'll just make it a good pay-per-view. Hopefully, if the other fights are good, and it's not like the rest of the card isn't complete. Like, you couldn't put this on Strickland Duplessis 2 and expect the card to be good. But most pay-per-views, you put this on there, and you just know it's going to be a banger. You know you're going to sell tickets and sell pay-per-views, because people just want to see these guys fight. And then this is the kind of fight where they'll go, oh, well, I don't care too much to see the main event, but like, with Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker as well, yeah, that's enough to push me over the edge and make me buy it. So it's just a really good fight, and we've got it as the 4th fight on the card. So like, you just know that I'm stacking this is a really good card. And the thing is, if we weren't getting like crappy fight nights all the time, these are the kind of events that we could be having. Like, I would honestly rather see a UFC event like once every 3 weeks and just not have fight nights. Like, have the fight nights be like headlined by some like dull prospect or some like number 13 ranked guy, and just have it be a bunch of low ranked guys outside the rankings, and have all the actual ranked fighters on them like actual big pay-per-views. I'm sick of dredging through like mediocre pay-per-views. I really think the UFC needs to be putting more effort into making banger pay-per-views, and it's not difficult because there's so many good matchups that they could and should be making. And then you have the main events that everyone wants to see. Ilya Islam, Aspinall Jones, Hamzat Dricus. And you just put good cards on the undercard of that. You have like a Whaley co-main on the Aspinall Jones card. That's not what I've got on here. You just make good cards, and the sport kind of sorts itself out. So this is a really good card that I'm putting together here. Gaethje versus Hooker, Aldo versus Cejudo. We've already got those. It's not hard to find and pick out good fights. The only difficult thing is going, oh, well, maybe that would be a fight night. Which, yeah, some of these probably would. Like, the next fight we've got coming up now would be a fight night. Which sucks, because on this card it would be so good. But even then, the rest of the fights are all ones that you'd see on a main event. It's not difficult, so, you know, UFC, hire me or anyone else on MMA YouTube who's actually in touch and can make good fights, rather than Gaethje Makhachev, which, fingers crossed by the time I upload this, has been confirmed not to be happening, but I'm still a little bit concerned. But let's move on to the next fight. Coming up next, in the feature fight of UFC 322, probably 322, is going to be in the light heavyweight division, and it's going to be another #1 contender fight between Khalil Roundtree and Carlos Ulberg. Now, this is what I was talking about at the start of the video, where I said we're kind of having to estimate and predict who's going to win some upcoming fights. I think Khalil Roundtree is going to beat Jamal Hill in their fight. I think Jamal Hill is just not that great, and I think Khalil Roundtree proved against Pereira Pereira. I know stylistically his blitzing style does work well against Pereira. Pereira struggles with that. But I think he's going to walk down Jamal Hill. I think he's going to clip him with big shots, daze him in the first round, and then probably knock him out in like the third. In my last video, another one from my last video, I made Prochazka versus Olberg, which I think is just the obvious fight to make. You're not giving Olberg a title shot. I put that on International Fight Week. I think Yuri wins that fight. I think Yuri beats up Olberg pretty badly. I think the only person in the division that beats Yuri right now is Pereira. I think he beats Ankalaev because stylistically Ank won't like that, and Ank is not as good as him beating Pereira should make it seem, because Pereira was not fighting like Pereira in that fight. But yeah, I think Olberg loses to Yuri. I think Roundtree beats Hill. Around this time when these guys are fighting, probably like a few months later, we're going to get Yuri versus the winner of the Ankalaev Pereira rematch. So I think you do these guys against each other. And I think that's a really good fight, because then the winner of this can take on the winner of Yuri Ank Pereira. It's a Khalil fight, so you know he's going to make it a scrap. And we can just kind of see how good both guys are, because we don't really know how good Jan was in that Olberg fight. He looked pretty good, so we kind of don't really know how good Olberg is still. And Roundtree, if he beats Hill, it will just be kind of a case of, oh, how bad is Hill? And we're kind of still not going to know for sure how good Khalil is. But yeah, I think this is a good fight to match these guys against each other. You know Khalil will bring out the thunder, and to be fair, I think Olberg's style is too cautious, too jabby. I think Khalil will just walk him down, you know, blitz him, overwhelm him, and I think he probably knocks him out. And the thing is that I like about this matchup that I've made here is that if Jan beats Roundtree, it still works, because Jan versus Olberg, lots of good things about that fight. Might be a pretty boring fight, but in terms of what it does for the division, that fight makes sense, it works. If Yuri loses against Olberg, then you can do Yuri versus Khalil, and that's an incredible, you just know that could be a fight of the year contender. That would be an incredible fight, you just know it. I think Yuri would probably find an opening and knock him out pretty soon, but it's quite hard to say, because Yuri is not the most offensively sound. He looked good against Jan, but Khalil could knock him out. Khalil could clip him, knock him out. The only situation where it doesn't work is if Yuri loses and Jan wins, which I think is the least likely outcome, because I picked the opposite for both of those fights. So yeah, I think Khalil Roundtree versus Carlos Olberg, or whatever matchup that ends up being, is a very good number one contender fight to fight the winner of Yuri versus Ank Pereira. I think that's a great feature fight, and I think this card is shaping up to be incredible. This would be such a good card. Next up on the card, we actually have a title fight. We have two title fights on this card, but not really, because we're doing the BMF title between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. This is the fight I really wanted to see, rather than Holloway versus Poirier, although I get why they did Holloway-Poirier, because there's not a lot you could really do for Poirier's retirement. But I really want to see Holloway versus Oliveira, because their first fight, it was at featherweight. Both guys were way younger, way worse. Both clearly improved so much since then. They won't be weight cutting for this fight as much, and I just think it's a really incredible fight, this, and I really want to see it, because Oliveira got injured in their first fight, so that was kind of tainted. And yeah, this is just such a good fight. I think Holloway is going to beat Poirier in their fight. I think Holloway has shown so much improvement since that third Volk fight. He's sitting down in his punches a bit more, relying on landing significant shots rather than just so many shots. He still has that pressure style, but it just seems like he's searching for kind of more value out of his strikes. Against Gaethje and against Topuria, I know against Topuria he got knocked out the first time in his career, but that was against Topuria, so you can't really knock him too much for it. I think Holloway in that Topuria fight, probably in the Gaethje fight to be honest, but I think he's looked the best we've ever seen him. I think he looks so good. And Oliveira in the Sarukian fight, he looked so good even though he lost. The Chandler fight, he looked really solid. He didn't beat Chandler as handily as I would have liked, considering Paddy Pimblett was able to finish Michael Chandler. I think, in terms of like pound for pound, who is actually the most skilled people in the UFC, Makhachev, Topuria, Volk, Holloway, Oliveira, Sarukian. Really, I think those are right now are the most skilled guys in the sport. Throw Pantoja in there as well. Holloway, Oliveira are both just so incredible everywhere. Like, Holloway has the striking edge, Oliveira has the grappling edge, obviously, but neither of those guys are bad in either of those places. So this is just going to be such a competitive fight. It's one of the most high-skilled matchups you can make in the UFC. Oh, it's such a good fight. And then the winner can maybe get the loser of Makhachev versus Topuria, because I think you do the winner of Saruki and Gaethje. I think you do the winner of that against the winner of Makhachev Topuria. But you can do Holloway Oliveira versus whoever loses between Makhachev and Topuria. If it's a Holloway Topuria rematch, I'd be up for it. That first fight was incredible, and it wasn't like that dominant by Ilya. Holloway still looked really good. He just got clipped. You know, I'd hope he wouldn't do the same thing in the rematch. I would pick Topuria to win. Like, even though I picked Holloway the first time, I'm picking Topuria to win this if they were to rematch. But it's still an incredible fight. Fight of the year contender, you just know it. And it'll be an absolute banger. If it's Oliveira versus Topuria, great. Everyone wants to see that. That might be happening already if it's not Makhachev Topuria. If it's Makhachev versus Holloway, that's a fight I really want to see. I think Makhachev probably submits him, but you just don't know. That would be such a good fight. And if it's Oliveira Makhachev, that's probably the one I'd be least excited to see. But I'd still be happy to see it, because it would still be a good fight. No matter how this ends, you've got a really high-skilled matchup. I think the issue of this matchup is if Poirier is able to beat Holloway, which is, you know, it's reasonable. He's 2-0 against Holloway, but that was a long time ago. Holloway was far worse. I think one or both of them were at featherweight. I want to say one was at lightweight. Not sure if I'm remembering rightly. Definitely one of them was at featherweight. Holloway's improved so much since then. I think Holloway wins. I think Holloway has improved more than Poirier. I think, admittedly, against Makhachev, I think that's the best Poirier we've ever seen. Like, I think he looks so good against her. I don't think he's washed by any means, but I just think Holloway is so skilled, and I think Holloway's going to be able to, you know, survive against getting knocked out, and there are very few fighters I pick in a decision against Holloway. Makhachev might be able to do it. I think Oliveira might be able to do it. Sarukian, Volk might be able to do it. I don't think Poirier can beat Holloway in a decision. And I guess it is 5 rounds, so yeah, it's gonna be, can Poirier knock Holloway out? And I'm just not sure he can at this point in Holloway's career. I think Holloway might be too good. Whatever happens with these kind of top 5 lightweights right now, it is gonna result in some incredibly highly skilled matchups, and that's what I want to see. As a UFC fan, I want to see guys go up against each other who are really skilled and who can make really competitive fights that we kind of don't know who's gonna win and are gonna be entertaining. Like, I don't care for these, oh, we don't know who's going to win between Olberg and Rakic, or definitely Olberg, but that kind of style where it's going to be like jabby, jabby, jabby and boring striking, or like where we had Pereira and Kalaev. I know going into that we all expected that to be a better fight, but it ended up being pretty terrible. Example of why striking matchup doesn't always mean good matchup. But this is like, these are the matchups where they're competitive. You can't pick who's going to win really, or like that confidently. You can't have like a definitive, yeah, this guy's going to win. But it's still going to be an absolute banger of a matchup. It'll probably be a war, be a badass fight, as Dana always says. Holloway or Oliveira is probably one of the fights I want to see most in the UFC right now. You can see on screen here, I've put neither of these guys as the antagonist. This is the first one we just don't have an antagonist. Who do you want to lose this fight? Like, I'm a bigger fan of Holloway than Oliveira, but if Oliveira wins, I got no issue with it. I love Oliveira. There's no bad outcome for this fight. The bad outcome is, oh, one of these guys has to lose. So the UFC just, they gotta make this fight at some point. Oliveira won't be around for too much longer. Holloway probably won't. Holloway, I expect, will probably retire a bit earlier than most guys because he's been doing it for so long and he don't want the CTs get too bad. It's already there. So no, you ain't. We're gonna find out. I can't do a Holloway impression for the life of me, but I hope that one Saturday night in November we find out who's better between Holloway and Oliveira. Let's go for that. For the main event, we obviously know it's Jones versus Aspinall. I'm not gonna waffle on for too much longer about this because we all know why this fight should be happening. I don't think I need to speak any more on that. We've got some delusional John Jones fans, which I just don't understand. How can you be a fan of John Jones. Absolute scumbag. He's done too much. Aspinall doesn't deserve the fight, as if it isn't literally how the sport works, that the champion fights the number one contender rather than old man Stipe, which, you know, I get you can defend because it was booked already, but now you got no excuses other than, oh man, Jones is 38 years old, he's so old, as if it's not heavyweight, and as if they're not praising Jones for just beating 42-year-old Stipe, as if Alex Pereira didn't go on his title run from 36 to 37 and knock out Yuri, Jan, Khalil at 37, at the same age as John Jones, in a lower division where age matters slightly more. It's basically the same, but it's ridiculous. What I want to say here as well, the age gap between John Jones and Tom Aspinall is smaller than it was between John Jones and DC. DC, I think he was 36 when Jones was 27, and DC's, 5'9", Jones is complaining about the size difference, trying to make an excuse as to why he's going to lose and why he doesn't want the fight. You want to say that if Aspinall wins, his win is over you. Like, Jones trying to invalidate Aspinall's potential win over him, you can just hit him with the, okay, well, that invalidates your win over DC. Not to mention you were on PEDs. He's such a scumbag. He's such a plague on the sport. And Dana, for some reason, he's looking at him and going, this is our LeBron James, man. As if John Jones is ever going to be bigger than McGregor. Like, why can't the UFC have some decent, like, why can't the face of the UFC just be a decent guy? Why can't we get, like, Holloway or Aspinall as the face of the... We almost had Pereira, and then Ankalaev had to go and ruin it. It's fine, Yuri will avenge us. We all know what I think of the Yuri versus Ankalaev fight. That's if Pereira doesn't show up and actually fight like Pereira in the rematch. If Pereira fights like Pereira, he will kill Ankalaev. Like, Ankalaev will not stand a chance. The striking isn't close. It's just because Pereira was fighting so abhorrently. Jones fans are like, nah, it does nothing for his legacy. What? His legacy's going to be better off if he avoids the Aspinall fight, and if he blatantly ducks Aspinall, his legacy is going to be better off. Especially, like, it would be one thing to duck Aspinall now if he'd fought Francis Ngannou, which he didn't. He blatantly ducked Ngannou for 3 years. So he's going to be retiring as a known duck unless he fights Aspinall. A loss to Aspinall does more for John Jones's legacy than not fighting him. And if you disagree with that, you're delusional, because it just blatantly does. And he would be more respected as a fighter. If Jones doesn't fight Aspinall, Makhachev is ahead of him in the GOAT conversation with his next win, if it's Topuria or Sarukian. If it's Gaethje, yeah, forget it. If he doesn't fight Aspinall, there would just be so many things tarnishing Jones's legacy. PDs, beating his wife, I know that doesn't really matter for legacy, but losing to Reyes, for one, he's not undefeated, he lost to Reyes. His win against DC was on PEDs, and he's making all the same excuses for why he might lose to Tom Aspinall. He's acting like Tom Aspinall can only beat him because he's younger and bigger, as if that wasn't his advantage in the DC fight, which is still to this day his best win. Not looking good for John Jones' legacy unless he beats Tom Aspinall. I think if Aspinall wins, it will genuinely be an advantage in skill, and just stylistically Aspinall being capable of finishing the fight earlier, where John Jones couldn't finish Anthony Smith. Like, let's just remind you that everyone's like, John Jones is going to finish Tom Aspinall in the first round. No, the hell he's not. He took Anthony Smith to a 5-round decision. Frankly embarrassing when you're supposedly the GOAT of the sport. Look what Zhang Ming Yang just did to Anthony Smith. I mean, he's not in his prime, but let's be real, Anthony Smith really never had a prime. And you're taken into decision. Jones might be able to, defend himself from getting finished, but I don't even think he can submit Aspinall, because Aspinall's wrestling is really good. I think Jones is better. Jones's ground game is definitely better than Aspinall's, but I don't think he'll be able to submit him. I think Aspinall might genuinely just strength max his way to not getting submitted by Jones. And on the feet, yeah, Aspinall's striking defense isn't great, but I don't think Jones is going to be finishing him. If Jones fights how he did against Stipe, Aspinall will knock him out in the first or second round. Mark my words. If Jones doesn't fight significantly better than he did against Stipe, Aspinall is taking a first or second round KO TKO. That fight needs to happen. I mean, let's look at this card. Aspinall Jones main event. At least the second biggest fight you can make in the sport right now. Holloway Oliveira, one of the most skilled fights you can make in the sport for the BMF title, will be an absolute banger. Roundtree Oldberg. Roundtree will utterly put a beating on this guy, and it's going to be a scrap for a number 1 contender fight. Gaethje Hooker is going to be an absolute war, will probably be fight of the year. It would take an absolute banger with some like 2 unranked prospects. And then you've got a legend fight that is just such an interesting stylistic matchup between 2 top 20 guys of the sport all time, Aldo and Cejudo. These are your fights on the main card. This is the type of main card we should be getting as UFC fans. These are the type of main cards that they can be putting together, but they don't, because they have to put Roundtree versus Hill on a fight night main event. Yay, I guess it makes the fight night more watchable, and without that, yeah, the fight night would kind of suck. But realistically, the best fights on the fight nights are always the random unranked prospects, random firefighters who show up. It'll be like firefighter versus accountant, clash of the ages. See John 52 from accounting put on an absolute masterclass in striking, facing the immovable opposition that is Derek the firefighter's ground game. Those are the fights that we watch fight nights for, not Roundtree Hill main event. Yeah, like that is a great main event, very exciting to see, but it's ruining pay-per-views, man. But you put this together, you're doing over 1 million pay-per-view buys. There's no way you're not. This will be top 5 biggest events in UFC history, easily. There's no way it's not. The build up to this will be absolutely crazy. Let's just put together this card. It's so easy. I mean, obviously a couple of these fights depend on who's winning and matchups I've made previously, but there's no reason you can't put on a very similar card to this with equally incredible fights for Jones Aspinall. And my concern is that the Jones Aspinall card is going to have a terrible undercard. We're going to get Gaziev versus Tuivasa, Jewel of the Blobs for the co-main or something. That'll probably be what it is. Let's just make this card. I haven't crashed out that much this video. I don't think I've had a crash out this video. I was bordering on it, talking about Aldo versus Cejudo and how that hasn't been made. Aldo versus Zahabi always gets me a bit angry, but I've composed myself reasonably well this video. I think we haven't had any crash outs, which kind of defeats the object of the channel when my whole thing is like crash now. Over the UFC's terrible matchmaking. I've done well, and this is some great matchmaking. If you enjoyed this, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, because, you know, you drop a like, that pushes it out to maybe, 100 more people? Just 1 like? Drop a comment, that's probably the most helpful thing. It does help a lot to push it out to more people, and have more people be made aware of how bad the UFC's matchmaking is. And see how easy it is to make a banger card. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, want to see more, hopefully I'll crash out in the next video. I'm not quite sure what I'll do. Maybe I'll draw a DDP Hamzat card builder, or maybe I'll do something different. I promise I'll crash out in the next video. I won't be so cool and collected next time, which I'm really surprised given John Jones was in this video. I had to really take a breath there. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I'll speak to you people later.